My name is Danny. I'm 25 years old. I'm here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I am doing a video with job interview with Alex.
Hi, Danny. Thank you for coming in today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, just to give you go over kind of what the job position we're looking to fill is. So we own physical therapy and rehab center in the Dallas area. We have hundreds of patients. We have about 50 staff, and we're always looking to add new talent to our team as we get more and more patients. So we're looking to fill the role of doctor of physical therapy. You obviously sent your resume in to us, and you have a long history that led you up to this point. It looks like you just graduated. Congratulations.
Thank
Um,
you.
so yeah, this interview is kind of the first interview. We just want to make sure we're a good fit. And if you pass this interview, we'd have you come in face to face and meet with some of our resident doctors. So I guess to start, would you just mind telling me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I just graduated from Indiana State University with my doctorate in physical therapy. I've always had this passion for the human body, for sports, for fitness, for health. And I'm actually also a personal trainer on the side. So I do a little bit of side hustle with that, side gig with training clients. But then I also wanted to expand my expertise and help being able to help people rehab from injuries as well. And that's why I went into my career field as a doctor of physical therapy, because I've always been working a lot one-on-one with people, working with the body, working with health and nutrition and fitness. And I just want to continue to be in this career field. And I feel like I'm definitely right where I want to be. And so it's definitely a good place for me to be in terms of career path.
Okay, and what made you originally want to get into the physical therapy space? Was there a specific moment, or tell me about that?
Yeah, so this was actually a long time ago when my sister was telling me about different career options. So she's an occupational therapist right now, and she told me, "Hey, why don't you look into physical therapy because you might like it since you're so into fitness, you're so into personal training." Because at the time I was trying to get into personal training, and I looked into the career, I looked into YouTube videos on what it would be like to be a physical therapist. And after watching a lot of videos, I was like, wow, I think I would really like to be that someday. And so I kept researching. I even asked some of my friends, family members who I had met who were physical therapists, and I asked them about their experience. And the more that I learned about what it was like to be a PT, the more it interested me, the more it intrigued me to keep going. And I'm really glad that I did.
Feedback part here. I thought you answered it really well. You know, that's a common question. Tell me about yourself. You
Yeah.
kept it more on the professional side than the personal side, which
Okay.
which I agree with. You might want to sprinkle in a little bit about, you know, where you grew up, or, you know, especially in physical therapy. It sounds like I'm guessing you played sports, and you know, maybe that's how you kind of got into it. Also, maybe just a little bit about you have quite a history here with, you know,
Mhm.
all your internships and your experiences.
Mhm.
So if you could talk a little bit about those. Obviously, I have the resume right here, so you don't need
Right.
to read them verbatim. But if you kind of go like maybe chronologically, I grew up here. I went
Yeah.
to Purdue. Then I had an internship with, you know, Jaguar Sports or whatever it was, and then the stuff with, you know, the kids that you did work with, and you just
Yeah.
kind of lead to the point where you are now. I think it builds a really good story. I guess, can you give me maybe like one specific example of a patient? You don't have to give their name, but of just like a patient outcome that gave you the most like professional satisfaction.
Right, yes. Okay, so my one of my favorite patients to work with are neurological patients because, like, for example, stroke patients or people who had traumatic spinal cord injuries, traumatic brain injuries, because these are the patients who typically can't walk, or if they can walk, it's very, very difficult. And helping them being able to move, just even taking a few steps and then progressing over time, getting a few more steps, eventually working your way up to going up and down stairs, and then at the end of a session, I was working with one of these patients, and he said, "You know what? Like your work, I know you may not think of it, but your work really does help me. Like it really puts a smile on my face."
Yeah, that's
And
great.
when he said that, I remembered it forever because it was like a feeling of I was very in the moment. It was almost like, wow, everything that I learned up until this moment right now, was worth it just for that one, that like I made a difference in that one life. And to me, that's when I felt that intense gratitude for where I'm at right now.
Sure, that's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that was a great answer there because
Hmm.
you gave that specific example. I could tell it was from the heart. It
Yeah.
wasn't like a robotic or rehearsed answer, so I could tell it was genuine. So it resonated with me. So a great job on that answer. Also, uh, you mentioned the schooling when that was really important the way you answer that, how you got that exposure to each area. So
Hmm.
you kind of know and zeroed in on what you really wanted to do. So I
Hmm.
think that was a great thing to mention in the interview. Danny, what's your in 5 years from now, what's your goal professionally? Where do you want to be?
Yes, for 5 years from now, I definitely want to have built up a lot of clinical experience, a lot of clinical skills treating the widest a range of diagnoses as much as possible, and also expanding my toolbox. I want to have learned a lot of different certifications. So the orthopedic board specialist certification, I want to get dry needling certified. I want all these, I want to learn as much as I can. I want to continue to learn and continue to expand because the profession is going to continue to expand, especially as the digital landscape continues to grow as too. I want to be able to learn how to best adapt to how the world is changing as well to help improve patient outcomes the best possible way. And then I also want to end up being in some type of management position with the clinic at some point in time in my career, maybe 5 years. If I'm really hungry after it, I definitely want to get towards at least some progression towards that management, being like the lead supervising PT for a location.
I think that's a great answer. For a couple of reasons. One is, it shows you're self-motivated. You already are thinking about ways to improve yourself. Because in this profession, especially, you want to always be, getting more certifications, constantly learning. So I could
Right.
tell that hunger is there. And then also what you said about being the manager of a location, that tells me like if we hired you, you're not just going to jump ship in 2 years and try to open up your own practice. Like maybe you would want a long-term path with the facility, that we have. So I thought that was a really good answer you gave. Do you want to tell me about a time, whether it was at work or just in your personal life, that maybe you disagreed with somebody or had some conflict and how you resolved that?
Yeah, so sometimes, especially with being a physical therapist, sometimes different therapists in the same location will have different philosophies of treating and different treatment styles. So for example, some physical therapists you'll meet will be very exercise based. They'll basically only be teaching exercises or stretches, and then some will be like modalities based, like, oh, we're going to put you on the electrical stimulation, we're going to put ultrasound to help decrease your pain, and in that way. And then I like to fall very much somewhere in the middle. I want to be able to mix a both or whatever I need that I feel like the patient needs. Sometimes a patient doesn't need any exercise. Sometimes all they need right now is some manual therapy, some stretching, just taking their arm and then bringing it as far above overhead as much as they can. Sometimes that's all they need. Sometimes they do need some exercises so that they can help strengthen up their legs so that they can stand up and go walk to the other side of the house so that they can get some food. So it all depends on the patient. And one time I had a colleague who was very much in like the modality side of the physical therapy. I'd call it the spectrum. And
Mhm.
I would say like when after I treated a patient, when I was treating them, I did a mix of manual and a mix of exercises, and they said, "Hey, why don't you do more modalities?" And we kind of had a discussion. I'm like, well, I don't think that they would really benefit from modalities, um, to be honest, and I don't really feel like they need it. I don't, like I said, I don't think they need it, so I didn't really want it to do it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that kind of like had this like little bit of a not really an argument, but more so of a discussion of, oh, but we just want to make them feel better. We want to make them feel better at the end of the day. And ultrasound usually makes them feel better. And that's what this person had said to me. And I said, I understand that, but I also understand that they can feel better in various ways. It doesn't have to be one specific way. And so I'll take your consideration. Maybe I'll ask them if they want to try it in the next session and see how they respond to it. But I don't want to stick to one specific, like, oh, you have to do it this way. I don't like being put in such a limited box like that. I kind
Sure.
of want to try and do a mix of different things, see what patients respond best to without being so robotic of, oh, if this person has this, that means we go straight to Easton, we go straight to ultrasound. I want to do a mix. And to me, that me and them didn't have the same perspective on treatment
Sure.
styles, but at the end of the day, we both understood our own perspectives. We just
Right.
respected it and we acknowledged it. But at the end of the day, we're our own clinicians. We're gonna make our own decisions.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you answered it well. I mean, it shows that, there's conflict does happen. You were able to kind of try to come to or at least understand each other's point of view.
Right.
And especially, thinking of the patient's best interest at heart. And it wasn't like, like I'm always right, or I don't know, they weren't like they're always right. You kind of came to somewhat of an understanding, which is kind
Mhm.
of what we're looking for.
Right.
Yep, good way to answer that. Another question for you, I guess, in your life, who is a person maybe that you consider your biggest mentor, maybe the smartest person that you know, and why?
Smartest person and the biggest mentor. Ooh.
Or yeah,
Does it have to be a person who's real, or can it kind of be like a role model that I kind of looked
could
up
be
to?
anybody.
Anybody in the world?
Yeah,
Okay. I would say growing up, like I don't know why, but like me with a basketball background, I watched a lot of basketball, and I would say my biggest role model growing up was LeBron James. I don't know if you do you know who LeBron James
yeah,
is? Yeah. So I just really was fascinated by how he responded to criticism. Like all of these people, everyone in the entire world is tweeting and Instagramming all these different negative things. Oh, he should have played better. He should have did that. And just the way that the whole world is onto him sometimes on the biggest pressure in the moments. I just love how he responds to that, and he has such a he keeps his head held high. He keeps his confidence, his poise, and he always responds classy. I don't really think I've heard him
mhm,
like
right,
really lash out at anybody too much. But so that to me, I'd say who I looked up to as a kid growing up, and
yeah.
that's yeah, I would say that.
That's a good answer. I mean, the reason I asked that question is sometimes you hear it in interviews is people want to see, yeah, kind of who you're looking up to and why. So I can, with LeBron, I mean, I can tell it's like the resiliency he has. He kept his poise, things that are important in your position. Maybe you should talk a little bit about how that relates to, being a doctor of physical
Yeah.
therapy, like some of those traits that might have been good to say. But yeah, good answer. One more. This is more of a cliche question, but what do you consider your biggest weakness?
Oh, number one, I was reflecting on this the other day. My biggest weakness is that I'm my biggest critic. Like I feel like I'm my biggest cheerleader in my best moments, but if I make some type of mistake here or there, mentally I'm kind of overthinking a bit. I'm trying to telling myself, "Oh my gosh, I should have done this. I should have done that." Sometimes I'll kind of get in my own head, and I'm still currently working on that. I've gotten a lot better with it. And sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I do slip up and I kind of come into like a mental like, oh, like I'm thinking a little bit too much about my mistake and I need to just move on from it and
Yeah.
then learn and move on. But I would say that would be my biggest weakness is that I get on myself a lot. Sometimes I'll just reflect too much about something that I did. But in the end of the day, at least it's helping me grow and
Yeah.
expand as a clinician.
No, that's a good answer. I think it shows, if you're hardest on yourself, that means you just want to improve, and you
Mhm.
expect a lot out of yourself. I'm the same way, honestly. So yeah, I thought that was a good answer. Um, and I could tell it was honest and you weren't, a lot of times people try to sugarcoat that question, but you were pretty direct with it. So I appreciate that. And then I guess just to wrap up, do you have any questions for me about the job?
Yes, yes. So, in terms of the workload, so this is the type of question that I would ask an employer for physical therapy. I would ask them in terms of the workload, since we have to document up for every patient and every case, is the time built in for documentation? Is that built into the work schedule, or would I have to bring home my documentation to then continue working at home? Because I feel like burnout is a real thing that I do not want to have, or I want to limit it as much as possible. And so that's why I ask you, and I know you're probably not really familiar with physical therapy, like documentation practices, but That's what I would ask.
It's a valid question, but as an employer, I might be a little worried about that if you're trying to, you know, you know, I don't know how cutthroat it is in your industry, but if you're saying you kind of just you don't ever want to take work home with you,
Mhm.
some places might be a little, they want you to take work home. So I can't answer that, but I might avoid saying that.
Okay.
Just
No, that's
just
fair.
just as a business owner, another question too that you would probably be able to answer is, we do have strange hours. People come in after work, weekends. Are you pretty flexible on your schedule, especially as a newer doctor just out of college?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very flexible with my schedule as long as I'm aware of the schedule kind of at least a few days
Sure.
in advance. I just don't want any last minute like, oh, tomorrow you're coming in at 6 a.m. Like, and then I don't have as much time to prepare
Yeah.
for it. I think as long as there's some communication, then I'll be good with that.
Okay. Terrific. So I want to thank Danny for coming on the channel today. I thought he did a great job, was very authentic, genuine in his answers. He has a great resume, and I would definitely consider hiring him if I was the boss. The purpose of this channel is to show you what a real world job interview looks like and aid you in winning your future job. If you're interested in becoming a participant on the show, I'm going to leave the instructions in the description down below. Once again, guys, thank you very much. And please remember to subscribe to be notified about all future job interviews that are posted. Our goal is to release 2 or 3 per week for your educational and viewing pleasure. Thank you.